Hey guys, it's Andres Aya with Aya Percussion and Ensemble Block. Back in March 2024, Ensemble Block had the privilege of shooting the Paul Rennick course.
Gimbal. It's set for maximum Riz.
Resolution?
Resolution?
This was a huge moment for Ensemble Block, and although we offer more than percussion, the core team of Ensemble Block are primarily percussionists. So hearing this information pouring out of Paul Rennick for hours and hours was just mind-blowing. There were so many moments where my brain just kind of exploded.
Drum for, especially when we're outside, that's the opposite. We need it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have any ring, and so when everyone's really focused on muting their drums and taping them up, it just actually makes it a little less.
Yeah. I haven't thought about it in reverse that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Paul was talking about his pedagogy, because there's not been a lot of information out there with how Paul approaches things unless you go to school with him. So this course has been so amazing for our percussion community, but me as well, because I'm still teaching. So when I heard Paul say this,
if I was teaching a young group, maybe junior high school or something, I definitely would do this every single day. I would reinforce this to the point where they understood that almost everything they're going to play is some version of this. So the first note.
When I heard Paul say that, my ears perked up, because I now primarily teach younger students. Of course, Paul goes through the concept.
I try to organize my thoughts about how to teach playing. And one of the things was I bulleted it down to 6 one-handed exercises that basically comprise everything. And this was just, exercises that have been done individually, but I thought about it in a different way. So there's three exercises and 3 exercises that have a controlled tap in between. So there's 6 basic one-handed exercises I think that we tend to do.
So I try to take it a step further so I could use it with my students and create a PDF document where you can use these 6 motions. And so we can incorporate these 6 motions in our daily practice and develop our hands so that when we get to high school, it really pays off. So I have these 6 exercises written out in 12/8, but then I also go into incorporating them into some of these Flam rudiments that he talks about. And then I have some bonus stuff that's a little more advanced at the end. So in the description of the video, find the link where you can get this PDF. And this is just one of the tidbits that I got from the Paul Rennick course. There's just so much great information in there. You should check it out. Definitely worth your time and resources to get this for your district, for yourself. I'm always trying to learn, so this has been fantastic for me and using this for my students. And I geek out about these things all the time. So I hope you enjoy these exercises. Of course, this is just my interpretation, so this might motivate you to come up with your own exercises. I thought this is the most efficient way to get through this. Most of us educators don't have a lot of time, so we need to keep it short and sweet and get to the point. So I hope this does this for you. All right, let's get into it. So first of all, I wrote this in 12/8 because I feel like 12/8 is very flexible and you can use it with a lot of hemiolas. And when you're in 3, it kind of rounds things out anyway. So one of the things that I really liked about the way Paul approached this is that, yes, we work on all these skill sets at different points. For example, I have my handbook that goes through all these fundamentals for keyboard and snare and rudiments. But some of these concepts are kind of over here and over there. But I love how Paul kind of streamlined it if we're trying to do a quick warm-up and develop these muscles. So this first stroke obviously is your single stroke where you're just doing 1 stroke at a time. We're used to doing 8 on a hand. Okay, I put this in 12/8, so this kind of works on the hemiola of a quarter note triplet, so I think it's good for students. I think 110 is a good tempo to start, although all this is great to chop out on and kind of go faster. So although with your beginners, you might be starting the up position and kind of learning how to use rebound and get out of the way of the stick, I'm going to approach this as if we were kind of seasoned a little bit and we're going to be in the down position. Either way, you need to be relaxed and let the stick move seamlessly and constant motion. Be relaxed in your tacit hands. And as Paul would say, you're holding the stick and you're playing with your hand. Okay, so you're not trying to incorporate too much finger. You're trying to make sure that you're starting from the bead and you're letting things move naturally. One of the Paul Rennick rules, contact without pressure, loose grip, primarily from the wrists. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. I've gone down the Bill Bachman rabbit hole, and so I'm a big proponent of your bead to elbow being in line. I like to have American grip where my thumb is being utilized. German grip is where finger control goes to die, flat hands or sad hands, as he would say. So we want to make sure that we're at a nice 45 degree in our hands. Things are in line here. Common thing that students do is they have the angle of their stick and arm are not in line, and so they're not unified. Okay, the other thing I see a lot of students doing is they're bending their wrist down here already instead of kind of having a downward slope into the pad. That's going to really pay off when we use our thumb, and we have downstrokes later on, but we can still utilize this with our legato strokes. So these are the things I'm looking for with this easy first concept. Now when we get to the twos, let's listen to a little bit of what Paul says about when we get to our double strokes and our triple strokes.
All right. The next thing is two notes, right? Like we said earlier, each note is down and up from the same spot, but the pair of notes is down and up from the same spot. So you can tell that the level in which I'm playing is somewhere around here, right? And you'll notice that this third, the 30% up here is where the stick moves and hovers, and there's a freedom to move up there, right? But you really want to return to that spot kind of as quickly as you can and then hover out. So you have a two-note bounce. And then when you get to a three-note bounce or a Chuggada, that is a three-note bounce. And the advice that I give all the time is that I want the second note to be as high as possible. And by saying that, that takes the control completely off the first note. See what I mean? So I want to play no lower. As a matter of fact, if I played, I can actually make it seem like it's one-heighted, right? I don't want to get close to the head at all. It's going to have a natural decay. Right?
So one of the things I'm looking for, like he said, when my students are playing this, I want that second note to rebound. So my middle finger cannot be too tight on this. And we got to let it bounce. And then I pull the stick into my hand, and then it kind of comes back up to that level. And then I initiate a little bit more at the top here, like he said. So you see me 1, 2, I'm here, and then I'm lifting. But there's an overarching motion. There's two notes happening, but there's one motion naturally kind of starting this. So here's one note here, and I'm throwing two notes in there. And we're learning how to activate our fingers and letting the stick bounce. Okay, so I should see no stopping at the bottom, no stopping at the top. Let's keep this motion. When they do pull the fingers in, if they're utilizing their fingers at this tempo, they don't squeeze the stick as hard as possible, just enough to get back to home base and gather the stick. It's almost like you're catching a ball in your hand. Even if we're in down position and there is a downstroke, a natural downstroke when we switch, again, we're enveloping the stick. We're not overdoing it. We're not doing more than we need to do. Here we go. Twos. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, don't slam the last note. Everything is natural and relaxed. Okay, so when we go to the threes, we need to make sure that we're allowing our fingers to open. Again, it's one motion and three notes come out of it. Now I gotta make sure that my middle finger is not too tight. Yes, I'm gonna have that natural decay where the first note's definitely gonna be a certain height and then we're gonna be underneath that, but we're trying to make sure it's a good sound quality and we're definitely not stopping the stick. Okay, we wanna let it bounce. Don't try to make them three equal and stop at the top like a piston stroke, because that's just the ones again, that we've already kind of done that motion. Now we're working on threes, one motion, three notes come out, and you're getting a good sound quality and height, and we're starting to develop that finger control and finger bounce, and we're letting things kind of start to happen on their own in the back of the fulcrum and letting things bounce. I have not worked on threes enough with my younger students. 1, 2, ready, go. So a lot of younger students really have a hard time with threes, so you might need to spend a little bit more time on this. And that's okay, because that's why we're addressing this. It's something we're weak at. A lot of times with my students, I'll go like, you see, we kind of suck at this. Let's acknowledge that we're not good at this and we need to work on it. Okay, so now we're going to do those three strokes again, but we're going to put a controlled stroke in front of it. So a controlled stroke, I'd be careful not to think of it like a downstroke where you're putting extra into it. Again, you want to do just enough to get the job done. So I'm letting my thumb help with that. I'm making sure my back fingers are enveloping the stick, because if they're open back here, it's gonna wanna move around. Okay, I'm making sure I'm loose though, I'm not super tight. Like he says about the hand enveloping the stick. If you hit a pillow with your stick, the pillow would absorb the stick and envelop the stick. And that's the kind of thing we're thinking about with our hand here. Loose grip. And then I'm gonna stop the stick at the height that I wanna play next. So a lot of times we will finish at a downward angle. Of course, we want to have that leverage over the bead and get everything to be a nice pure downstroke. But we don't want to stop the stick at 1 millimeter and then have to come up to 3 inches or flat. Let's go ahead and stop the stick where we're going to be. So just like Paul says, he tried to live somewhere in between Sanford Moeller and Roger Stone. I feel like I live somewhere between Bill Bachman and Paul Rennick. I think the developing players do tend to let the stick pass their hand. And so when you think about the concept that Paul talks about, which is hands below the bead, he thinks of this as it helping your rhythm sound lyrical, which is awesome, and we're going to get there. I feel like younger players need a little bit more control, so that's where I kind of lean on the Bill Bachman approach, where we're kind of down into the drum a little bit. But I don't think we need to do it to an extreme where we're not relaxed, okay, where Paul will disapprove. So I do think we need to develop our heights and our stick control. But again, we can envelop the stick like Paul says and be relaxed in the back of the hand. So let's downstroke, point down, the thumb helps, the back of the stick absorbs, but we're not going to overdo it and do any extra. So let's do a control stroke and ones. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, pretty simple concept there. So again, make sure we're not changing color on the downstroke, and we're relaxed. And we don't have a weak inner beat either. Okay, should be relaxed throughout the hand. So now let's go to control stroke with a 2. Able to downstroke and keep my fingers closed for the controlled stroke, and then I have to learn how to be loose down here and let it bounce, and then catch the stick. At different tempos, you might use less finger or more finger, but in general, I'm going 110. This is what I'm doing in 110. Okay, so for my students, I try to get them to isolate that low double and see if they can create a double without lifting too much. A lot of kids will want to lift for a double. Right now, we're trying to produce a double from almost nothing and be relaxed. Okay, we're letting the stick and the drum do the work. 1, 2, ready, go. Now we just add one more note to get your control stroke in your 3. 1, 2, ready, go. So we get busy with UIL and we have other things that we have to test. I would always do these motions at the beginning of class and just make my kids hold me accountable to this. So let's go ahead and do all these motions all in a row, take out the rest at the end, and we're going to make sure we at least warm this up every day, maybe take up the tempo and change our goals every week to go a little faster. 2, 1, 2, and go. So I'm going to be shooting for my kids to get up to 160 by the end of the school year. Let's give that a shot. 1, 2, 1, 2, and go. Okay, you could stop there and make sure you're really good at that throughout the year, and you just take a 60 seconds to go through that every day. We can go a step further. I call the next part motions and coordination. So we're going to take the same approach, but we're going to start to see how we coordinate these with both hands. So obviously the first...
I love seeing the light bulb go off. I really do. I think that's one of the most pleasurable things about teaching. To impart an idea, I'll be just as sincere as they are and just smile and just say, you know, you got it. As a musician, oftentimes you're constantly confronted with the fact that you have to compile a career that has several branches. And I think mine is obviously teaching, writing, and playing. I don't know if I could do any one of those things as well as I do now without all of them together. The relief of coming in to teach and interacting with students, it's just fun. I just enjoy it. And then I can offset that with writing. I'm fortunate enough to teach many things, and not just drum corps, but many things where myself and Sandy teach the music that we both write. Bringing something that I wrote to life is really rewarding, and I think I can share an insight with the students that they otherwise wouldn't have. As a teacher, I feel like I learn things all the time. If you really want to know something, then try to teach it. You know, I've thought about this many times, and I've kind of questioned because I'm old. You look great. Right? I'm like 86 years old, and you would never know it.